Both entities watched the creatures play with steel and gunpowder. 4 years of nothing but silence. 4 years of unrivaled entertainment. It's supposed to be normal, something mundane in his life, akin to watching a supernova or a gamma ray burst. So why is it starting to feel so pleasant to watch? So fulfilling? My, how beautiful. Is it over already? The master asked. I believe so. Such foolish reasons they have for something of this scale. The human mind is like an ocean, not only vast, but also incredibly deep. It continues to be reminiscing of ultimatums, although terribly flawed. Their perfectionism is what led them to extinction. Meanwhile, humans continue to chase it, blissfully unaware of what it implies. They should be grateful for being imperfect. That is true. Based on your tellings, I was never able to quite grasp the way of ultimatums. It doesn't matter anymore. How is our little experiment doing? Quite well, even if not physically at the moment. Just some temporary blindness. He's proving himself as a loyal and brave soldier for his land, or country, as they call it. Of course, this is only the beginning. Good. We need a mind capable of reshaping nations, igniting a war unlike any other, the one we need. Based on the way we made him, he is on his way there. Then it's only a matter of time. A few moments of silence later, the creator decides to ask the forbidden question once more. How have you been feeling lately? He wouldn't even hesitate this time. Marvelous, I may say. Perhaps I was wrong about ultimatums. These emotions are such a delight. Just remember to control them, and not allow them to control you. That is why they fell, and what humans are helpless to accomplish. Very well. I mustn't forget why I heavily frowned upon them to begin with. Atlantic Heights Precinct, New York. The air was chilling, a mass of ghastly bodies surrounding them. Upon closer inspection, however, no physical wounds or blood appeared to be present. It wouldn't exactly be a stretch to wonder if they are truly dead. An occasional breeze rushes through the entrance, saving the area from being completely silent, aside from their footsteps. Toby makes his way towards the closest officer to his left. He kneels before him, grabbing his wrist to check his pulse. He hesitated before reaching in. His eyes widen upon making a shocking discovery. It's still warm. What is this? Isaac immediately turned to look at him, both locking eyes. I can't hear his pulse, but the body's warm. It shouldn't be by now, right? You can't convince me this happened minutes ago, come on. He made his way closer to Toby, whose attention returned to the officer, also kneeling before him. A nightmarish sight it is, as if he was paralyzed in fear shortly before dying. The mouth is hung open in such a way it appears as if his jaw broke. They both stand up again shortly after examining the body. Fuck me. Now that we're actually here, I'm not sure if this is a good idea, he said with both hands pulling at his hair, making his way towards the doorway to an even darker corridor, followed by Isaac, who leaned his head against his arm on the wall, his other hand on his hip. You should be in the evidence room. What do we do? He asked, looking at him. Still leaning against his own arm on the wall, Isaac's head turns to him, his other arm slowly rising up, mimicking a throat slice with his thumb. Toby's jaw tightened, his lips forming a thin line as his eyes narrowed. Isaac's attention returned to the corridor up ahead. He can't just speak his heart out. It's too risky. This isn't a friend. This isn't someone he's known for a while. He had to settle for something less imposing. I don't think we should do that. Isaac's eyes immediately snapped back to him, one of them covered by his arm. There was a slight tension in the air, causing him to carefully articulate his thoughts. Whatever he's about to say next, he should think twice about it. The way he's looking at him, it almost seems borderline hostile. Was it intentional, though? It can be rather difficult to appear friendly with a hidden face. Toby swallowed a coating of saliva that had been accumulating in his mouth. He is a big name in the world. Not to mention that if he dies, we'll lose who's likely the only person that could tell us about the company's actions behind the scenes. I just don't think it's a good idea to take him out like that. To just dive into a world of trouble, you know? Isaac glances briefly at the bodies, then back at him. Toby does the same, very slightly gritting his teeth for a moment. Look, I know what you're thinking. He killed people, therefore he must die. Cool, okay. Even though I still don't agree with that, I get your point. Here specifically, however, there's a lot at risk. Especially since we're still not 100% sure that this person is in fact him. Toby carefully explained, his tone firm and confident in his own words. Isaac lowers his arm, now leaning against the wall with his shoulder, eyeing him with a sinister gaze, arms crossed. Toby remained still, his expression unchanging. Isaac swats an arm to the left in a dismissive manner, falling against and hitting his hip. He looks around the room, setting his eyes on a notepad and pen perched on the counter. He goes to snatch them, ripping a sheet from it before returning, Toby's eyes not shifting away from him. Almost slamming the sheet against the wall, and, with a click of the pen, he began writing on it. Toby rolled his eyes as he waited patiently for whatever sermon was coming his way, occasionally stealing glances at the corridor ahead. After finishing, Isaac turned to him, abruptly pushing the note into his chest. Toby's body jerked back a little before taking and reading it. Even when your life's in danger, you'll still be like that? Toby sighed as Isaac stood impatiently before him, arms crossed. If it comes down to that, then I won't hesitate. But I won't be happy about it. Isaac's hand suddenly reached for the note again, snatching it from his own, beginning to write something more on it against the wall. His rushed movements hinted at irritation, possibly because of Toby's last words. He gave it to him once more, this time in a polite manner. Toby took it. You think I am? His gaze slowly rose to meet him. Right, you're not like that. At least you're aware this is not some heroic acts. He discarded the note onto the floor. Anyways, let's focus on the task at hand now. Isaac was just about to do the same for the pen, but thankfully realized he might need it later, tucking it into a back pocket. It's the only communication tool at his disposal now, writing. Gathering up courage, they finally stepped forward through the doorway, which was also burst open, making their way across the dark corridor. The silence was uncomfortable, to say the least. It's a simple corridor, neutral-colored walls, beige linoleum flooring. Occasional chairs and potted plants can be sighted, but that's about it when it comes to furniture. The lively environment during the day is now the product of a nightmare amidst the darkness, giving them a creeping sense of dread as they walk. I don't know where the fuck the evidence room is, so I hope you like some exploring, Toby stated. He does, frankly. As they randomly turn right around the corner, Isaac begins to hear something over them. Very faint footsteps on the floor above, prompting him to glance up. They didn't quite sound like normal footsteps. There was a heavier feel to them. They got much faster all of a sudden. Toby would notice it too little too late, as the anticipation in their hearts quickly turned into horror. This mission to find Adam was about to take an unexpected, dreadful turn. Out of nowhere, something falls through the ceiling, carving a large hole as an ocean of debris comes flooding down onto the floor below, accompanied by a thick cloud of dust covering the area around it. The violent sound of crushed concrete filled the entire station, lingering on for several seconds before its eventual fade. Completely caught off guard, both of them stepped back several feet, the shroud of dust overwhelming their senses, their arms covering their faces. "What the hell?" Toby shouts, aggressively rubbing his teary eyes. Lowering his arms, Isaac quickly assumed the combat stance. He already knew that whatever this was, it wasn't the work of Adam. As the thickness of the dust cloud lessens, they see a silhouette of a person. Their body is hunched over, the left arm drawn back, as if ready for a punch, while the right one is pointing at the ground. Terrifyingly enough, they also notice what appears to be wings on this person's back, wings that were as still as stone, causing their eyebrows to further furrow. Toby remained speechless at these features, his face conveying both fear and confusion. Isaac, on the other hand, was also unsettled, yet was already asking himself just what exactly was standing before them at this moment. Whatever it is, it doesn't seem like a good idea to be standing so close to it. Realizing this, Isaac began slowly backing up, signaling Toby to do the same by tapping him on the shoulder. He does so, sweating profoundly. The silence after the storm was chillingly eerie, aside from a few remaining crumbs of concrete still falling from the ceiling. Little did they know that it was but the first storm, the smallest one. Now standing all the way across the hallway, the dust finally clears up. It's a statue of a bald man with wings on his back, wearing nothing but shorts, which are also somehow petrified. "Huh?" Toby uttered. For a brief moment amidst the chaos, they caught a glimpse of someone's head peeking over the door from a room at the far end of the hallway. It was Adam, allegedly. He looked surprised, strangely enough, a cue that he likely didn't have anything to do with this, which they caught onto. He barely got a reaction out of them, though, as something far more threatening stood between them, stealing their resolve. His lips curved into his signature smile before retreating back into the room. Toby was sure that it had to be the evidence room, and that he was still not done in there. "So, what is this thing? Is this a host?" he asked, forcing a calm and collected tone. Isaac wouldn't get to think about this question, however. Suddenly, the statue's head glanced up at him, the sound of creaking stone filling their ears, their bodies jerking back in response. Its hollow eye sockets began to emanate a red light. What happened? He's on the ground against the wall, his head hurting like hell. He remembers Toby shouting as something rushed towards him. That's right, it was the statue. It was too fast, almost like a lightning bolt, delivering a crushing blow to his head with such intensity it sent him flying across the corridor, the very moment briefly gone from his memory. The wall even shattered behind his back, some of his ribs having felt the damage. It was just too fast. There was no hope to even see it happen with his own eyes, much less react to it in time. Even Toby took a second to react before Isaac was propelled backwards. "Whoa! What the fuck?" he shouted in a panic as his body wobbly backed up to the right, a strong wind hitting him. Fist still raised after the punch, the statue turns its attention to Toby, its eye sockets shining red once again. He knew it was coming, so, before the statue could even lift a finger, Toby's upper body bent back in an unnatural manner, as if his spine was either broken or made of rubber. In that exact moment, it shot itself forward with full force, its fist already raised, unreactable speed, to which he successfully ducked under, solely due to doing it ahead of time. He then hopped into the janitor's room, his movement impaired by the shockwave the statue's speed had caused, his torso bending the right way again with a crack. The lock of the door clicked harshly as he slammed it shut, gripping the hinge with all of his strength, his breathing out of control. "This thing doesn't have an organic body. I can't do anything to it. Okay, calm down. Think. You're fine, aren't you, Isaac? Please tell me you're fine. Where the fuck did this thing even come from to begin with?" He could hear its footsteps fading away from behind the door, causing his eyes to narrow. Excuse me? Meanwhile, Isaac can barely get up. The damage to his back is nothing compared to the sheer agony his head was experiencing. It's like he was hit by a plane, and yet he knows he's only alive because of his increased resistance to physical trauma. He has to get up, as the statue already has its sights set on him once more. This time, however, he's ready for it, an ideal counterattack coming to mind. With much effort he dragged himself up, using the wall behind him as support, the concussion he was experiencing making it difficult to properly see his aggressor across the hallway, everything spinning around in circles. Unbeknownst to him, his inability to do so would save his life. From the exact moment his eyes locked on the statue, it reacted, that same ominous red light. He sets up a portal to his left, hoping it doesn't understand its nature. Then, just a fraction of a second before it moved, a second portal right in front of him, both facing the statue. It flashed across the hallway, traveling through the portal, coming out the one to Isaac's left, and, as a result, maintaining all of its momentum. It was like a cannon shot, a ball being launched back the same way it came from. The sheer velocity propelled it into a rapid, uncontrollable roll along the floor, violently wrecking it until slamming into the far wall at the end of the hallway, the impact so strong it nearly broke through it. Isaac, now fully back on his feet, asked himself a very important question about this enemy. It sure as hell took his time while I was out cold. Why? I could swear it was standing across the hallway for a while doing nothing. Toby left the janitor's room just in time to see the path of destruction, his eyebrows raising in amazement. He peeks over the wall, being met with the statue all the way at the end of the hallway, turned on its head against the wall. He then glances back at Isaac, who was making his way closer, giving him a thumbs up. Stone shook as it stood back up, a rumbling sound filling the area. It doesn't seem to have suffered even minor damage. Its gaze was set on the two of them, who were also looking at it. This time, however, Isaac grabs Toby by the shoulder and pushes him behind the wall to the right, both hiding from its line of sight. It was time for a little experimentation. The two of them leaned heavily against the wall, Toby breathing heavily. Their nerves were spiking, as it's much worse to allow the danger to freely exist out of sight than to be staring it down, aware of its next move. They wait a few seconds. Not a sound can be heard. The thing is heavy, so there's no way it could have possibly moved without making a lot of noise. Does that mean it's still standing there? They can't tell. And they can't bring themselves to find out either. Toby looked at Isaac, his eyebrows furrowed. "Did it move?" he whispered. "As scary as it is, it must be done." Very slowly Isaac peeked over the wall. To his absolute disbelief, it's still there, motionless, gaze fixated on the floor. It looked up at him, shining red eyes. Isaac jerked back behind the wall in a flash. "It's still there?" Toby asked, baffled. He nodded rapidly in response. It still didn't move, though. Isaac peeks once again, the same process repeating several times. The statue looks up at him, and he retreats. No matter how many times he did it, as long as he was quick, it would not move an inch. "It only moves when we look at it? No way," Toby said as he watched him, the last bit reeking of sudden self-assurance, hearing the creaking of the stone every time he looked. Isaac turns to him and nods once more. "Well, that was pretty easy to figure out. So does that mean we can just close our—" He wouldn't get to finish his sentence. Over the span of a second, they suddenly hear a flurry of footsteps that sounded like hammers against the floor, each one getting closer, before coming to an abrupt stop. They froze, never having stood more still in their entire lives. Even their breathing halted, resulting in an even quieter and more unsettling moment than previously. 3 figures were standing beside each other, yet only 2 hearts were beating, a shivering cold lingering to their right. He didn't want to look, he didn't want to look, he didn't want to look, but he had to. With his head trembling, he went for it. Fortunately, he barely had to peek, as just as he was going to, he saw the right arm and leg of the statue coming into view. Terrified, Isaac's body immediately snapped around, grabbing Toby by the head as the two of them started speed-walking the opposite way. "Okay, I get it! Out!" he said, mixed with a few grunts. He lets go of Toby after a short while and turns around, making his way back. "Hey, what are you doing?" he whispered loudly. With his eyes closed, he steps out from behind the wall, exposing himself to the danger head-on. There he stands, unable to see a thing before him. He didn't need to, however. He could feel it. That overwhelming dread, a sixth sense. It was like waking up to someone watching you in bed, but you've yet to open your eyes. The brain knows when something is off. His trembling arm slowly rose, reaching forward. He was so hesitant it took several seconds of his hand going at a snail's pace, until finally colliding with something, causing it to jerk slightly. His mind was racing with various thoughts. Am I doing something stupid? Could it still attack me out of nowhere? Is it just pretending? And yet, he remained unharmed. Stealing his nerves, he pushed on, his finger tracing what he thought to be its chest, heading up. It was cold, but his gloves didn't allow him to feel it. Very shortly he reached its neck, tracing its shape to find out. then the head. It continued to not move, allowing itself to be touched continuously, which only frightened him the longer it went on. Their theory proved correct, however. It can only attack people who are looking at it, like a weeping angel, but reversed. Is that really so? There has to be a catch. Now aware of the head's location, Isaac draws his fists, throwing a powerful punch to it, creating a cracking thud that travels across the hallway. It did not budge, didn't even flinch. The only outcome of this decision was his fist hurting immensely. That's odd. He didn't feel that way back when he was punching rocks in the forests. That was loud, Toby said, still standing behind the wall, leaning against it while watching him. He's unsure what to do next. Is this even normal stone? He thought of dropping it from a great height using portals, that is by throwing it into a loop, letting it build velocity before crashing down on the floor. But how would he move an immovable object, though, let alone push it? What is stone even vulnerable to? A silly thought, but we're not talking about average stone here. Still, the more he thinks about it, the greater of a headache he gets. Too much comfort was getting to him, which called for something to happen that would remind him of his position. He began to hear the soft crumbling of pebbles onto the floor. He panicked, yet remained still. Did it move? It's not like he can just open his eyes to find out. Following that, another sound can be heard, an extremely odd one. It was like a spit from a person's mouth, then a subtle splash on the floor next to his feet. "What was that?" Toby said, baffled, wishing he could peek around the wall. This unknown shift raised an alarm in his mind. He wanted to open his eyes. He wanted to see just what exactly was happening, but he couldn't. Then, after the splash, he hears something crawling on the floor, something wet, slimy, making for quite an uncomfortable sound. It was slow at first, but gradually began speeding up. It's coming from his right now, and heading up. He's only now realized that it's probably not a good idea to remain where he is. But just as he was beginning to retreat closer to Toby, something hit him. The impact tackled him to the floor as he began to feel the source of the slimy sounds across his face. "Hey, whoa, what happened? What did he do?" Toby shouts at him, initially rushing for his aid, but immediately stopping himself, or he would be right in front of the statue. Isaac's body squirmed violently, his hands moving in a panic to try and get whatever was on his face off. A tiny, transparent, octopus-like creature wiggled around on his face. No matter how much he tried, its viscous body was impossible to be grabbed. Toby was forced to watch in horror, his face and body frozen. It's not like he was unable to do anything. He was just too terrified to properly think of what to do. The creature wraps its tentacles around Isaac's eyelids, swimming inside the eyes themselves. He felt a freezing sensation in the back of his eyes, so agonizing he almost felt the need to gouge them out, his squirming intensifying. Then, with a violent snap, it forces his eyes open, permanently. His squirming has finally come to an end as he stares aghast at the ceiling, arms spread out. He can't close his eyes anymore. The lids hurt when he tries to. His heart is beating even faster than before, knowing exactly what lies in front of him. This wouldn't be considered an issue at all had it not been for the threat they're dealing with. So it is aware of its weakness, and this is its answer to it. Even though it does make things worse and is especially grueling, he can still easily avoid looking at it through the art of snapping his neck either up or down. Isaac? Toby called out as he cautiously got closer. He wouldn't come to his aid, however, as suddenly that same slimy sound can be heard crawling on the wall next to him. His face turned to it in a flash, but it was too late, as it was already leaping towards him. Yet another creature, jumping onto Toby's face and tackling him to the floor, following the exact same procedure. Although this time, there were screams, unlike Isaac, who can't even convey his pain. Toby also tried his best to take it off of his face as it accomplished its goal, to no avail.
The fuck is this? Get it off me! Get this shit off me!
His body was almost convulsing in terror. And yet, his shouts and pleas are met with Isaac's helpless gaze as he slowly turns his head to him, already aware of the futility. Toby's eyes have also been pried open. Permanently. Huh? What? I can't... he uttered, his hands hovering over his eyes, finding out that his powers can't bail him out of this one. Very carefully, Isaac turns on his side, crawling in Toby's direction, avoiding eye contact with the statue. Only the sounds of Toby's panicked breathing and Isaac's wiggling on the ground could be heard. That massive, unshakable threat remained in place, as if savoring the moment, allowing just a small droplet of hope, a chance to merely act. But it's not like it even needs to do anything. It's not its actions that strike fear into their hearts. It's its very presence. The promise of what will happen should they glance in its direction. It erases half of one's field of view just by standing in an open area. Upon reaching Toby, they both sloppily help each other up, rustling each other's clothes as they try to do so while facing the other way. They both silently look at each other, their stares almost nightmare material, eyes fully pried open, as if by a speculum, unseen eyelids. I can kinda see it around your eyes. It's like a transparent slug. That's bizarre, Toby said, trying to squint his own eyes to look deeper, but naturally failing. Also looking at him, Isaac attempts to grab a tentacle around Toby's eye, yet his fingers slide off like butter every time he tries, increasingly frustrating him. It made for quite an awkward moment in the middle of the hallway. I don't think you can, he said, a hint of annoyance on his face. As all hope seemed to be lost, he finally manages to grab it, his fingers pressing together as tight as he can, followed by trying to pull it off. Toby's vocal cords made themselves very clear very quickly.
Ah! Stop!
He screamed in pain, his eyes grabbing his wrist to pull it away, and so he did.
Shit! Oh my god! These things are behind them, I think. If we try to pull them out, we can kiss our eyes goodbye, that's for sure.
Isaac thought about this, hence why he didn't use all of his strength right off the bat. Their little moment is disrupted upon hearing a single heavy footstep behind them. Startled, they hastily make their way down the hallway, not daring to look over their shoulders. Words could not describe their fear of this thing, as if it came from another world. It isn't clear if it's even a host. Here. Toby whispers as they pass by the door to the wellness room, opening it. Stepping inside, it almost feels like an oasis, a paradise free of all danger. But just like any oasis, it is nothing more than a mirage. Toby quickly locks the door as Isaac leans against the wall, his hands unable to stay off the creature in his eyes. You think it saw us going here? Isaac wavered his hand. Probably, right? Okay. We need a plan. They do, or else death awaits them.